Welcome also from my side. Thomas Lippert, as Matthias mentioned, I'm the Director of Product Management here, and I try to get you to a new way of influencing Checkmk development. Can we move the slides? Oh, I have a clicker, I'm sorry, yeah. So first, let me tell you about the status quo. Where are we today? So currently we have two types of how we get features. The first one is from raw and enterprise customers with no customer support, with no support contract. And they to give us like their wishes about features is having a forum post, the conference here and the voting at the back, which I invite every one of you to do that during the breaks, and sending us an email to the feedback email address. The challenges here is it's not very transparent, the forum posts are, but the feedback address, for example, we just see it, nobody else sees it. It's 3 different ways of input, and also the collaboration is limited in those ways. The forum allows collaboration, the other 2 means to a limited extent, especially like the conference is only once a year. For other customers with support contract, there's the same ways as I mentioned before, but there's also the service desk ticket. So a customer can raise, similar to a support ticket, can raise a ticket asking for a particular feature, for a particular improvement. Quite often, feature requests start as a support case where something couldn't be solved the way we have it in the product, and then it evolves into a feature request. And the challenges here are the same as on the previous slide, but one in addition, the volume of requests we get here is quite high, and therefore we also end up with a very long response time. And let me qualify that a little bit further. So our challenge actually is we have a number of customers that's growing significantly, so more than 3,000 this year. If you have a 1 feature request per customer, and it takes us 2 weeks to implement, then it would be already like 6,000 weeks of development we would just need to do to get them going. And that's without any other activities like support cases, our own ideas for improving the product, and also like strategic directions we want to go to. So therefore, we need a new way of doing it. So here's just to reiterate what I mentioned before, the latest snapshot of our feature system, basically of the service desk system regarding features. So on the 8th of April, we had 374 features. Average time is more than a year. About 23% are about checks and agents, the rest are about the general product. And it's not like we are not doing any of those requests. We actually did last year 278 requests, feature requests, which we solved. But we did get 275, so it's hard to make any progress here. And therefore, we need that new model. And the new model means we need to work on the features which are important for the entire customer base. We need to be able to interact with customers and see who is having a particular request, and not just the one requesting it, but also others if they have a very similar request. We want to give our customers quicker response, because that's also one of the challenges. Customers complain that we are remaining silent as long as the features in our system and we are not actively working on it. And we want to enable transparency about how many features we have. I mean, the slide before, nobody of you could see how many features we have and how many we have implemented. And we want to make it more transparent to everyone. And so here's a proposal for a new way of doing it. First of all, I want to divide the features in 2 categories. On one side, it's the checks and agents, and on the other side, it's the general feature requests. The checks and agents come from IT policies, like we need to monitor everything. There's a high push, especially during the initial rollout of Checkmk, that if there is any major systems missing, that we do an enhancement to the product which monitors this particular system the customer has. Customers also need a rather fast answer, because that's very important during the rollout. We can't take in just that one and deliver it like 2 releases later. That's simply not what the customer needs at that point. And the other thing is the product is very easily extensible also between releases here. We all know the MKPs which we can deliver, which have new checks. Typical example here is a request which basically, that's how it's written in the system, monitoring of EMC Isilon storage. So it's a new system a customer has either bought or has on site and may want to monitor it. On the other side, you have a general feature request. General means for the product itself, not just the check-in agent. We have many requests from many customers, and they are all great enhancement requests. So no doubt about that one. But only a few of them are really important for all of you, or for the majority of you. So we need to find those and focus on those, because then we do the greatest impact to everyone. And all of the features are an important input for us, because, as an example, if a lot of you ask about improvements in the event console, then we know, okay, that's an area that a lot of you are using and want to improve. So let's focus here and make that thing better. And one example I took from the service desk tickets, which appeared several times, was that several of you have asked for a feature which is about labels and filters. So currently, when we filter by label, it's always an and. So the host must have label A, B, and C when it appears. But you can't do things like label A or B, as an example, or A, B, but not D, as the other example. So that is a request which came up quite often, and that would qualify into this category. And with those two categories, we want to basically handle them differently than we do today. On the one side, the checks and the agents request remain for the support customers, because they are associated with some payment, so we need to have a commercial contract with the customer, and they remain in the ticket system as you do today. On the other side, the general requests, we will move out of the ticketing system into a new system and consolidate the other ways here, and that will be a feature voting portal, and I come to that in a minute. So now let's look at both ways of handling things. So checks and agents first. When I analyzed the checks and agent requests we have, I noticed one thing, that they are not all equal, and that's also very visible when you see them implemented. So a certain category is a simple enhancement request to an existing check. So I need a new metric here, I need a new check for a particular value, or the check needs to be modified. Very simple, very straightforward, easy to understand. The effort is very reasonable. The other category, the middle category, is about I need a significant enhancement to an existing check. A recent example was I want to monitor physical interfaces on NetApp devices, not just logical interfaces. So that requires some requirement engineering, understanding that requirement fully, also interacting with a few customers having a NetApp device. So it's more effort, significant more effort, and requires a specification so that we actually develop what's common used here. And the third category is from a complexity like the middle category, but it's a completely new check. So it's not something where we enhance something, where we write something from scratch. And we want to handle those three categories in a different manner. And let me explain how. Talking about the first category again. So as I mentioned, it's very simple and easy to understand. So we want to make a simplified estimation process. Some of you know them, how we estimate things. So that will be, you will get a very simple number. It's either half a day or a full day. That's it. And also that's the limit. So if it takes us longer than a day, it doesn't fall into this category. If it falls into that category, we make a very quick offer to you. That's the streamlined process. You want it this way. If you reply, it gets done rather quickly in this or the next sprint. And if it's not in that category, we learned while doing, it's not in that category, it moves to middle one. What we learned from the past, and when I analyzed all the requests from the last 2 years, which we had in the system, roughly 50% of our requests are in that category. So our intention here is to do these things quickly within 1 or 2 sprints, depending on when they come in and how long potential clarifications require, and then they are done. So we don't want to let you wait for any of those enhancements. The middle category is different. What we learned also from a few very bad running tickets, that they usually require some requirement specification. So we need to interact with the customer to really understand their needs, what exactly is needed, and how it fits to our system, and how it fits to other checks. So we must have a consistent product. So therefore, we will interact with you as product manager and try to sort that out. And that's the requirement clarification process. After that process, you will get an estimate, but before that, we will make a go, no-go decision. We had occasionally cases where the request, when basically digging into them turned out not to be good ones, good for the product, or doesn't really solve the problem. So therefore, after requirement process, we do the go, no go decision, but you get, if it's a go, you get an estimation, you need to approve it, and we work with you to find a slot for implementation. So we will ask you for time when it fits you, when it fits our schedule. Details I will show on the next slide. And there's one requirement we have for you if you order a check here. That's you must be available in that slot to help us actively developing that feature. We need you to test preview versions, and we need you to finalize and approve it in that time frame. That's also a learning we had. We had occasionally a few checks which take ages till we get the final approval. We want to go away from that. And the last category, a completely new check, is the same as the middle category, same process here. There's one important difference. As this is a new one, we might decide not to do it. So if we either run out of resources, so too many requests over time, so we can't handle them, or we think the IT component is like an edge case, something which only one or two customers have, then we might decide, say, sorry, this is not, we don't want to do it in our general product. Please reach out to some of our qualified partners, and they help you doing this check, and if you like, you can put it into the exchange later on. So there might be the case where we say, actually, sorry, we won't do it. But the difference to today, we want to tell you that information rather quickly. So what are the checks and agents? Talking about the slots I mentioned before. So we assigned dedicated resources to checks and development, and they end up with 48 development slots. So 4 teams, 12 months, very simple. Before we do a development and assignment to a slot, the requirements must be clear and agreed with the customer. The slot date will be negotiated with the customers. You actually know when it's coming. And maybe if it's too long, you might say, sorry, when I go any other way. But by that time, you know that actually when it's coming, not as today, when we actually tell you we are doing it when we start working on it. And as mentioned before, customer must commit to help us in the development with answering questions and doing the testing at the very end. So that was the checks and agents. Now let's look into general feature requests. As mentioned before, there's a new system we want to introduce, and that's a feature voting tool or feature voting portal. So on the left, you see a screenshot. I have more details in a minute. The important thing, it's a public tool, so very similar to our forum. Everybody can vote here for features or ask for features, and therefore also the visibility about what we are asked for and what is voted high and what we may comment about or ask about is clearly visible to everyone. The tool supports request consolidation, because that's quite often that we have several requests or requests about the same thing or about the same demand several times in the system. And this system supports consolidation when also consolidating the votes. On the other side, it also allows splitting votes. So occasionally there's this policy of 1 request per ticket, but occasionally we get several requests per ticket. This allows us to easily split them into separate requests. If you do raise the request, you also get notified if you tick a respective box. So you get email about status changes, about comments, about modifications here. It also shows clearly the status of a new feature. So as you see in the example, 2 features are basically waiting in consideration by the product management team, and 1 is in progress. So we tell you once we start a certain feature, so you know about it. Also here important is, it's not like you dump things in when they linger around for a long time, and then we start working with it. We will review every request we get in initially before it appears here, so please give some time till like a week or so till your request shows up for the public. So we will clarify them with you, maybe ask your questions and sort them out before they become visible, so that they are really very well understandable for everyone, and also we know what you actually are asking for. And all the top voted features are candidates for the next release. They are candidates, they are not committed or approved. And let me give you a few examples how we do it or why we do it this way. So again, the example is the event console. Let's assume the top voted request is about the event console. But due to various other input factors, we decided not to touch the event console with the next release. that might be a case that we actually will not do the top voted feature. Let me give you another example. Let's assume again, event console is top voted, and because it's so highly voted by you, we decide to do event console. That might also lead that we do a feature number 15 and 75 in the ranking list, because they are all also about the event console, and we consolidate all those requests in one development activities. So because if we touch the event console, we fix them all together. That's the only way it makes sense. So that's why I say they are all candidates. They are not guaranteed, but we take your input really serious to our heart, and we reserved some capacity to do them. And the other important thing here is the implementation is for free. So unlike today, where somebody can request a feature, we do an estimate, and once it's done, basically it's delivered, but also we charge you. All those features developed via voting on the feature portal are completely for free. The portal is live as of today, so you are all happy to use it. It's feature.checkmk.com, or if you use your mobile phone and scan it, it should hopefully work, at least for those in the front, to get access to it. What I have done to populate it, not to start with an empty forum, I have migrated some of the requests we have in our system already in, so I filled them in, tried to understand basically from the request, also translated them. We have a lot of German requests into English and made them available. So you see some of them already. This is how the tool looks like for those who can't access it at the moment. So it's a very simple web page. Put it this way with a list of feature requests. It's a sorted list, so you can sort either by the top voted features or by the new features, so which came last. You can also filter by state, so you know that, for example, what is in progress, what has been done if you're looking up something, so that's all visible to you. Of course, you see the number of votes here, and also the state, which I mentioned before. The most important feature, which looks quite simple, is the search here. So if you type in search for something, what happens is that the system gives you potential hits, but that also allows you to vote for an existing feature. That's a request consolidation. Because if you ask, given my example before about the EMC Isilon, so if you type in EMC, it might already propose you a few requests for EMC systems, and then you actually vote for one. So that's a possibility. If you don't find yours, then you press the Add Suggestion button and enter new suggestion. Once it's in, this is how each request will look alike. So basically you see the number of votes here. And just by clicking on it, you add your vote to this request. You see the description, you see the state, and you can collaborate around it by adding comments. Also, you can also, if you have a request which is better explained with a picture, you can also add pictures to each of the requests. And I mentioned before that we will review every request which comes into the system, and that's the admin UI. You won't see it, but I want to make it visible to you so you know what we are actually doing. So here's an example. A request for a particular system, an SD-WAN system, was made. It shows up first with us, so we can check it, make sure that it's understandable for the public, also that we understand what the request is actually about it, and then we can approve it. So we tick it and then go approve first. Or in case the request is either exists already, we know already about it, there's something very similar, or it's two requests in one, we can do a merge or a split here. So to keep the portal healthy, so you actually have really qualified and good structured requests in the portal. It's not just a way of dumping things, so that needs to be actively maintained. The product management team commits to basically work on that portal on a regular basis. So whenever you raise a request, it should be latest within a week, it should become live. If you do a request, so just it's about the technique, it will show up for you, but for nobody else, and will be slightly grayed out until it's approved. So talking about the portal, so timeline is launched today. We will communicate it to the rest of the Checkmk users in May with newsletters, forum posts, and that like. And after that was done, we will refuse to take further feature requests through the Jira Service Desk through our support portal. We migrate all existing requests, and already done quite a number of them, so I think currently it's 48. So I migrated already a bunch of them, and basically there's no one-to-one matching to the number of requests I've shown before because, again, I consolidate them. So there will be the silent migration, which I've done today. From now on, I will basically respond to each of you when you had a request. Here's the corresponding ticket in the portal, and now I close this request. We will handle the remaining requests, so 200 more will come, roughly. And then we also migrate the forum, and that should be done till the end of June. And by the time, it's all consolidated in this one tool. So at the end, let me quickly summarize about the change, so make it all, again, like visible on one page. We handle new feature requests differently, whether they are checks and agents or they are general product. The checks and agents, we want to be very quick to give you an answer whether we do it or not. We want to sort out the details which are required to fully understand your request quickly. If it's a simple thing, we do it within hopefully 2 to 4 weeks. If it's a more complex one, we work with you to schedule it, to find a date, and we're currently working backward on our existing backlog. So some of you might get requests now for more details about the request they asked half a year ago. So once we come to an agreement, the request is scheduled, so you actually know when you get it done. And we need your help in specifying the details, developing, so responding to questions, and also testing. For general feature requests, there will be this public list of feature requests with a priority of what is needed most. The top voted features will be candidates for our next release, and the development is without cost, so no credit any longer for any feature requests you make. Thank you. Any questions?